Coming to you direct from Silencer Shop Studios, home of the Glass Case of Emotion.
SilencerShop.com, the easiest way to buy silencers online, period.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Hey, what's going on, freaks? Did you guys enjoy yesterday's episode? You did? Good. If you didn't enjoy it, well, I'm thinking it's probably because it hurt your feelings and you need to harden up. And there you go. The only people Jared, that could not have appreciated or enjoyed yesterday's show are the people who were actually engaged in participating in the Bob Ford syndrome. So, not really so much worried about their feelings. If your feelings were hurt yesterday, you should just go ahead and turn off your iPhone right now and go listen to an NPR show. Because I can pretty much guarantee you that if yesterday's show hurt your feelings, that you're probably going to be wetting your Pampers today. Wouldn't you say that's a fair assessment, Jared?
Yes, that is a fair assessment.
He says it's a fair assessment.
We'll say
but for a different reason. Because I am potentially, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to do something. Well, I'm actually going to do something that I do every day. I say what needs to be said, not what you want me to say. It's easy to... Jared, what do you learn by seeking out that which already agrees with you or that which you already know?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's right. Now, it's not necessarily wrong to analyze a subject multiple different ways or to study a subject. But if you really want to grow and expand, the only way that we can expand our minds and grow is to actually study and to seek out that which we have never sought out or experienced before. And today's show is probably going to be something like that. And I know you guys are you're excited and you're chomping at the bit and you're like, what's this all about, Paul? But have patience. Now, thank you to everybody who recently joined the grad program. I know we have a lot of new grad program listeners who listen during the week, and then you listen to the bonus hour on Friday as well. And thank you for that. And I hope that you are listening louder. I hope that you took the time to take a deep breath, close your mouth, open both of your ears, and take it all in, because you can't get it all in one session. You just can't. And I can tell you, a person who would listen to this show, this particular episode, for the first time today is going to come away thinking something erroneous. They won't understand, but that is the risk when you're a professional media producer like I am and like we are. It's a risk that you take. Now, the title of the show is The State Has No Morality. And you cannot discuss morality without discussing faith and religion, the church, and the family. And I know that some people don't want to deal with that. They don't want to address it, and they don't want to hear about it. But my brothers and sisters, it needs to be said. That is the official Student of the Gun Radio Hurt Feelings Warning Alarm. After that sound plays and you hear it, you have to acknowledge that you were warned. Therefore, any emails or Facebook messages or any other way that you want to let us know that you were offended and your feelings were hurt by what was said after the alarm, we're going to ignore it because you were warned. You have the opportunity as a free man or woman to walk away right now. And if you are an atheist or an agnostic, you need to listen too, because this affects you because it's the world that you live in. Now, this piece of audio that I'm going to play you right here, it's a YouTube audio, but it goes all the way back to 1929. And the evangelist preacher is a gentleman who went by the name of Billy Sunday. And it's a short clip. It's only 1 minute and 20 seconds long. And I know that many of you folks probably have never heard of it, but some of you have. And this was shared with us via, I think it was shared on the Liberty Mastermind group, Jared, if I'm correct. I want you to listen to this because I wanted this audio to be the first thing that led into our discussion on the state and morality. So if you've got it queued, go ahead and play it.
Civilization and society rests on morals. Morals rest on religion. Religion rests on the Bible and faith in God and in Jesus Christ. The Bible doesn't condemn any man because of his wealth. The Bible says the man that don't provide for his family is worse than an infidel. No. According to our standard of gold and silver, Abraham was worth $1.5 billion. David was worth $3 billion. Solomon was worth $5 billion. Solomon could have hired Andrew Carnegie for a butler, J. Pierpont Morgan to cut his lawn, and Andrew Mellon for a chauffeur, and John D. to black his boots. America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion. America needs to be taken down to God's bathhouse and the hose turned on her. And the time isn't far distant when the wheels of God's judgment are going to go sweeping through this old God-hating world. And I want to take a pledge in this audience to join me in a pledge that you will never rest until this old God-hating, Christ-hating, whiskey-soaked, Sabbath-breaking, blaspheming, infidel, bootlegging old world is bound to the cross of Jesus Christ by the golden chains of love.
That was from 1929, and that hokey music that you heard at the beginning, that's what you hear in 1929. That is the music that they play to let you know that this is an old-timey black and white one. Now, obviously, Billy Sunday in 1929 was very much against the consumption of alcohol and was for prohibition and against the the imbibement of alcohol and so on and so forth. But here's the thing. What did he say about morality, Jared? He said morality begins with religion, and religion begins with the Holy Bible. And what I'm going to tell you guys right now, first and foremost, we're going to talk about two types of legal precedent, or it's not even precedent, types of laws. And I've discussed this at length, but I need to make sure that everybody in the audience understands the concept of law and where law comes from.
Well, but what if I'm an atheist or an agnostic?
This still affects you.
Should I still listen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Malum in se and malum prohibitum. That is Latin. And malum in se, loosely defined, is a moral wrong. Okay. A wrong that is morally wrong and does not need to be explained. For instance, murder. Every culture, whether it's a culture in Asia or Central America or the United States or Europe or whatever, Australia, even Antarctica, you don't have to explain to the populace, you don't have to gather people around, and you don't have to say, okay, guys, let's talk about murder. Let's talk about the unlawful killing of a human being. And you're like, the unwarranted and unjustified taking of human life. Do we need to explain to you that that's wrong? And in a moral society, the answer is no. You don't need to explain to me why that is wrong, right? And you go on, malum in se is basically your 10 Commandments, okay? Murder, rape, robbery, theft, lying, coveting, so on and so forth. Those are all malum in se. Those are moral wrongs, but those are based upon morality. You have to have a culture, a community that has a basic founding in what we would call, in the United States, we call Judeo-Christian morals, right? So malum in se is a moral wrong. It is wrong in and of itself, and no one needs to sit you down and explain to you why it's wrong to lie, it's wrong to steal, it's wrong to rape, it's wrong to murder. We don't need to explain that. It just is a moral wrong. That's malum in se. And every state in the United States of America has a code or a statute book, and in there they have written out the crime of murder, assault, rape, robbery, theft, and all that stuff, and they have ascribed penalties to it. But the fact of the matter is it's morally wrong, and we know it is. But then you have other laws that are malum prohibitum, which means that it is a wrong because someone has decided that it is a wrong. For instance, there's nothing in the Bible about driving 55 miles per hour, okay? There's nothing in the Bible about, you name it, owning an assault rifle with a pistol grip and a bayonet lug and a flash hider and a detachable magazine. There's the only reason that action or that object or the possession of an object or whatever, the only reason that in 2017 it can be wrong is because a person or a group of people got together in a room, men, and decided that they were going to make a law prohibiting that action or the possession of that object. And malum in se is essentially universal throughout the Western world. You shouldn't be able to have to go to France or England or Germany or wherever, Canada, Mexico, and say, okay, rape is wrong, and let me explain to you why and see if you'll agree with me. No, they should all understand that it is wrong. It is a moral wrong. You don't have to explain it. But in certain parts of the world, some things are malum prohibitum, and in other places they're not. For instance, let's say the standard capacity magazine for an AR-15 rifle is malum prohibitum in some parts of the country. But in most parts of the country it is not. So malum prohibitum varies depending on who the humans are in charge at that moment in time. Now, if you were to say, all right, how many commandments are there in the Bible? Judeo-Christian values, 10 commandments, right, everybody? And I know that my Hebrew scholarly friends are going to say like, well, actually the 10 commandments is just a summary of all that Moses had to talk about. And I get that, okay? But just for the point of the sake of our argument here, the sake of our discussion, let's just say 10. And the first 3 commandments deal with man's relationship to God. The Sabbath day, thou shalt have no other gods before me, name God in vain, and so forth. And then the remaining 7 deal with man's relationship to man. You guys understand this, right? I hope that you do. I hope that you went to Sunday school or catechism or whatever and you understand that. So really, when it comes to malum in se, if we can say that malum in se laws are based upon morality comes from faith and religion, and let's just go ahead and say that all malum in se is based upon 7 of the 10 commandments, right? So there's really, when it comes down to it, there's only basically 7. You ever thought about that, Jared? Has he ever considered that? That when it comes to malum in se, a moral wrong, there's really only about 7. Now that there are various different degrees. Now you can say, thou shalt not kill, which really means thou shalt not commit murder, which is an unjustifiable killing of a human, right? Well, then what do? As men, we say murder bad. But it's also not legal for me to walk up on the street and say, hey, you're a douche, and punch you in the face for no reason, right? That becomes assault. But that falls under the murder category, right? And same thing with, the thou shalt not commit adultery, which is rape, which would also be things like, peeping toms and exposing yourself and, things like that. And then theft. thou shalt not steal, right? Well, steal could be not only bearing false witness and lying, it could be, downloading bootleg music videos or music or whatever. There's all kinds of different variances of that. But if you talk about malum in se, actual things that everyone in the entire Western world, no matter what language you speak, no matter what country you're from, we can all agree that a moral wrong or the malum in se is really, it's not that complicated. It's pretty simple. Now, on the other hand, go over to malum prohibitum. Malum prohibitum is everything else. So we started out as mankind thousands of years ago with a very simple, basic set of rules, right? Simple, basic set of rules. And we've evolved to literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of local, state, and national statutes that prohibit your behavior in whatever manner. Parking and speed limits and taxation, and you're not allowed to own this kind of gun or that kind of gun, what have you. The vast majority of the laws on the books today are not moral wrongs. They're actually malum prohibitum. It's illegal and unlawful because a bunch of guys or girls or whatever got together in a room and they all decided that the people shouldn't be allowed to have this anymore, or the people should be forced to in the interest of taxes. We need to take the people's money from them forcibly. And you're like, come on, Paul, the tax system is not forcible. Well, let me go ahead and break it down to you. If you don't do it, employees of the state with guns are going to come find you. And if you refuse their invitation, they're going to use force to make you accept their invitation. And in the definition of forcible taxation, if you send a guy in a uniform with a gun to come take somebody away because they didn't give the government their money, that pretty much is taxation at the barrel of a gun. Would you not say, Jared?
Yeah, that is definitely.
I mean, it's not like they send you a birthday party invitation. So, but where does malum prohibitum come from? Does it come from a thousands and thousands of year old moral code that has been passed on from generation to generation to generation? Or does it come from whatever man has decided is currently popular today? Now, when it comes to morality, and I know that there are people in the audience who think that they're smarter than me. I know that there are people in the audience who had just enough psychology in high school, or in college, that is, to screw them up for the rest of their lives. I understand that completely. And you could argue with me about this, but you would be wrong. The origins of morality begin with the family and the church. Now, whether the church is an actual building or whether the church is a faith, if your church actually is your parents schooling you in your faith, then that could be your church. But morality originates with the family and the church. Now, I need to give you a quick definition of religion versus cultism. And a cult is not a religion, just so you know. A true religion encourages man to control his baser instincts. A cult encourages him to embrace them. Let me explain that to you, guys who went to public schools in the last 20 years. Man, the human animal. The human animal is born with certain desires and conditions. Not only does everybody is everyone in the audience familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Jared, do you believe that they are?
If they're not, then they need to read your article.
Can you take the Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs article and drop it in the show
put
notes?
It in here.
I would appreciate it.
If you guys don't want to go to the show notes, just Google Paul Markle, Maslow Hierarchy of Needs.
And I think Malum Prohibitum, the article I wrote for the Blaze on Malum Prohibitum, I think that is still, I think it's still up. I don't know. You could look, but I wrote an article for the Blaze a few years ago about Malum Prohibitum versus Malum Inse, and we could share that too. But let's go ahead and talk about true religion and baser instincts. The human animal is born with certain desires and impulses. Everyone is. You come out of the womb, your DNA, your genetics, it has these, right? You want to eat, you want to drink, you want to fornicate, you want stuff. As you grow, you want things. And you have a desire to have things. Now, left to his own devices, if there were no morals and no wrongs, no malum inse, no malum prohibitum, men would just be running wild in a state of anarchy, and they would take whatever they wanted to take, however they could get it. Kind of like the animal kingdom. The current animal kingdom is basically anarchy. If an animal wants to eat something, he finds it and he eats it. Now, if that thing happens to be another animal, he's going to try and eat that other animal, and the other animal is going to try and fight back as best he can, and maybe that animal will win, maybe he'll get away, maybe he won't. Without morality, people are like, oh, animals are beautiful, and they're wonderful, and we have so much to learn from the animal kingdom. Yes, we do, but animals are also horrible. I wish I had Zach in here right now, because Zach is a firm believer that ducks are nature's rapist. Did you know that? Zach probably wouldn't eat a duck, but he is firmly behind the idea that all that all duck hunters are justified because ducks are nature's rapist.
Is it called Creating Gun Criminals Where There Were None?
Yeah, Malum Prohibitum versus Malum Inse.
That's not in the title, but
okay.
Is it supposed to be?
Probably. I don't know. Scroll down in there, and you should find that. Moral wrong and so forth. So those baser instincts, those desires that man has, how do we curb and control those desires? How do we curb and control man's desire to just take whatever he sees and wants? How do we control his desire to not fornicate with everything he sees? How do we control that? Because left to his own devices, left with no morality, no education, and no structure, man would just go nuts, right? They would take whatever they wanted to take. They would hurt whoever they wanted to hurt. They would fornicate with whoever they wanted to fornicate with, and it would be anarchy. Now, a true, genuine religion has in place a structure to allow men and to encourage men to control these instincts. Not to suppress or destroy them, because, okay, the instinct to procreate. The instinct to procreate is very important to mankind, because we have to be fruitful and multiply. That's how we keep our families going, keep our communities going, keep our countries going, is by having people, right? So the instinct to fornicate isn't necessarily a negative. The instinct to fornicate and the desire to fornicate at all times, anything we encounter, that is what needs to be curbed and controlled. Same thing with stealing and murder, killing. I don't like this person because he's in my way. I'm just going to kill him, right? So, but a cult, on the other hand, a cult encourages you to embrace the baser instincts. That person offended you? Kill them. That person has something you want? Take it. You want to fornicate from sun up to sundown? Anything you see? Do it. That is a cult. So when you encounter groups that call themselves religions, you might want to, put that to the test. Does this religion encourage men, and when I say men, I mean mankind, don't write me a freaking letter, to control their instincts, or does it encourage them to embrace their baser instincts? Now, what does this all have to do with the state having no morality? If you understand the history of the world, basically world history over the last 100 years, you've had a political philosophy that started out as Marxism, then you have whatever you want to call it, Marxism, socialism, communism. Socialism is just communism in a new dress and lipstick, okay? It's all totalitarianism. It is the control of the state over the people. Now, here's a little problem that the communists ran into, and they understood it and they knew it from the very beginning. In order for the state to exercise complete and total control over the population, they can't have any competition for that control. And what you had in the entire history of mankind is you've had families or tribes or faith or churches or religion. And those things controlled the behavior and guided and molded the behavior of the citizens. When someone has a strong family, a strong tribe, a strong clan, they don't have to look to the capital city for their survival. When someone has, and when I say clan, I'm using it with a C, don't be a retard. When they have a strong family, a strong community, a strong clan, they don't have to look to the capital for their daily needs, for their subsistence, for all the fairness in the world. When someone has a strong bond with their church, their congregation, the community, they don't have to look outside for their daily needs. And when you are a totalitarian state, when you're a government that is most interested in controlling all the, every aspect of your citizens' lives, especially their money and productivity, you can't have competition. You cannot have people being influenced by a strong family unit or by a strong church unit. So the communist, socialist, Marxist, whatever you want to call it, the totalitarian system, their greatest enemy is the church and the family. In order for you to take control, in order for the state to take total control over the people, they absolutely have to eliminate the influence of the family and the church over the lives of the people. And they understood that very well in the former Soviet Union. They understood it in Italy. One thing that Benito Mussolini hated the church. And you're like, but that's where Rome was, and that's where the Pope is, and how could Benito Mussolini, the fascist, how could he hate the church? Read a book. Woodrow Wilson was a socialist. Woodrow Wilson was not a good president. Woodrow Wilson was one of the worst, most devious, hurtful presidents. He did so much damage to the United States of America and our Constitution that we're still trying to fix it today. Woodrow Wilson did not believe in faith, in the church. Matter of fact, the only time he ever agreed with the church is when the church said that people should be subservient to the state and the government, and they should do what the state tells them to do. When I tell you this, it's all for a reason. What we have in the United States of America, in our major metropolitan areas, in our cities, in our Baltimores, in our Chicagos, in our New Yorks, Philadelphia, Memphis. Yeah, Memphis is terrible. I could go down the list if you want me to. Major metropolitan areas, Atlanta, people piled on top of people, controlled by the state. Because when you pile people on top of each other like rats in a big city, what you do is you force them into you tell them, like, look, man, if you don't allow the state, if you don't allow the government to structure, order, and control housing, utilities, fairness. If you don't allow us to do that, this isn't going to work because there's too many people all piled up on top of each other. You can't feed yourselves. You can't grow gardens. Try planting a garden in New York City and see what happens to you. Try collecting rainwater in a city or even out in the county. See what happens to you. You are not allowed. You must revere the state. But what has the state done? Now, in the United States of America today, they're a little bit more sly, a little bit more slick than the former. One thing that communism learned was that you can't execute your plan in front of the people. You cannot go around and burn the churches down. You can't go around and arrest all the fathers and put them in concentration camps. Because if you do that, the people will be aware of it, they'll see it, and they'll revolt. That's what they used to try to do. They tried to physically break up families through force. They tried to shut down the churches through burning books and literature and taking their property, confiscating it. What we've done instead over the last 50 years since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society is we've destroyed the church and we've destroyed the family, but we've done so by convincing the people whose families have been destroyed and whose churches have been destroyed that all of it took place in the interest of fairness and anti-discrimination and pro-safety and security and whatever liberal buzzword you want to use. Lyndon Johnson, and he wasn't the first one to institute a welfare program, but he put it on roids. He's the one who really ramped it up hard. And we're still paying the price for that today. We have inner cities where single-parent homes or homes that are minus the father outnumber those that have fathers. We have illegitimate births in certain parts of our culture in the 60 to 70 to 80% range. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted to destroy the nuclear family unit, you could not come up with a more perfect scheme to do that than the Great Society Welfare Program that awards and rewards people for having children out of wedlock. You're like, hey, don't you throw your morals on me, buddy. Have you not seen the results of the destruction of morality by the state? We have monsters, teenage monsters, committing rape against teenage children and live streaming it on Facebook. Yeah. That is what happens when you rob a society of their families. Now, the church, they in order to steal the authority of the church or to usurp the authority of the church or to basically undermine the church, they couldn't just go around confiscate church property because people would see that and they would fight back against it. Because we still have to convince Christians in America that the state still, is okay with them. What we do instead is we allow Hollywood to create 50 years worth of television and movies that portray Christians as bigots. They portray Christians as criminals. They portray Christians as dunderheads, as subhuman, as moronic, as with a sort of a caveman-like mentality. They portray Christians as laughable goofs. That's part of normalization. Normalization takes a long time, but it does happen. And then, now, if you are a conservative Christian and you believe in the tenets of the Bible, and you reject the authority of the state, Well, then what the state will do is they will use their Anti-Discrimination Act, the act that was designed to prevent people from being discriminated based upon the color of their skin at birth. What we'll do is we'll use that to persecute and punish you. And we will make you an example. We'll make an example out of you so that other Christians will see that if they decide that they're going to stand up for their Christian principles, if the state does not approve of it, the state will destroy them. So you need to be quiet. If you want to be a Christian, you need to keep it to yourself. You need to shut your mouth about it, and you need to do whatever the state tells you to do. But here's the problem. And I wrote a whole book on it called The Intolerant Christian. It's available now. But the state has no morality. The reason that Chicago is in the position that it is in. Why is it more dangerous to be in Chicago than Afghanistan? It's more dangerous to be in Chicago than it is to be in Baghdad today. Why is that? You say, but there are laws. Yeah, I understand. There are laws. There are restrictions. There's Malum, and Prohibitum laws on the books in Illinois that prohibit rape and murder and assault and theft and all those things. So how do they keep happening? Because laws don't stop crime. Laws do not stop human behavior. Human behavior can only be altered or curbed by morality. Now, you can catch a criminal. You can catch them in the midst of the act or at the end or after they've already committed the act, and you can punish them. You can do that. And I mean, the death penalty is the ultimate punishment. Prison is punishment. But you can't stop them other than taking the entire populace and putting them in shackles. You cannot prevent it from happening. All of these anti-violence rallies and these, let's all give peace a chance, something that they never address is this: the morality of the family and the church. And what they've done in Atlanta and Chicago and Memphis and Philadelphia and in New York and so forth, or parts of New York and New Jersey, you name it. What they've done is they have completely undermined the central family unit, the mother, the father, aunts and uncles, grandparents, all supporting each other. You can't have a mom being a mom and a dad at the same time. I'm sorry if you're a single parent, you're like, I can too. I can be a mommy and a daddy. No, you can't. That's not how the Homo sapien was raised. That is not how you institute, because one person has to be the good cop and the nurturer, and the other one has to be the disciplinarian. That is how you raise a fully functioning society. A moral functioning society is raised by parents, one of whom is the nurturer, the other of whom gives the guidance and the discipline. I'm right based on 50 years of evidence in the city of Chicago and Detroit. That makes me right. The United States federal government undertook a campaign to destroy the family unit in every major city in this country. And by and large, they've been successful. They also set upon a campaign to undermine, discredit, and destroy the faithful churches of the United States of America. And to a large part, they've done it. And what they've attempted to do is to substitute the state's Malum Prohibitum and the state's statutes. And what have we seen? What is the evidence? We have a system in Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, you name it, where the state is in control. The state is the authority. They're run by socialist Democrats. There is no arguing it. It is a fact. And they've had 50 years to make it a utopia. And what we have instead is burned out streets. We have homes that are shells. We have people walking around like living dead. We have wholesale murder and slaughter. We have monsters raping our children and then posting it live on Facebook. It's all against the law. It's all a violation of a statute that's in a book somewhere, and yet it continues to occur. And the reason that it continues to occur is because the state has no morality. The only thing that can stop a rapist from raping, is a victim that kills them, destroys them. What stops human behavior? What makes a human not engage in a certain behavior? Remember we went all the way back to the beginning of this episode and I said that a true religion encourages man to control his baser instincts and a cult encourages him to embrace them? What the federal government has done in the United States, the crime that Lyndon Johnson and Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Delano Roosevelt and William Jefferson Clinton and Comrade Barry Hussein Obama, the crime that they have committed against the people of the United States is they have attempted to supplant the father with the check, the father with the government check, the father with the EBT card. An EBT card is not a guide. A government check has no morality. An EBT card does not discipline your children. What they've done is they've convinced a huge segment of our population that, now what is welfare, Jared? What are benefits or entitlements? What does that actually translate to?
What do you mean?
What is it? What is an entitlement? I mean, I know there's certain objects like phones or whatever, but what does it come down to?
Oh, money.
Money. It comes down to money. What the government has tried to convince, and what they have in large part convinced, what they've convinced the people of the United States is that the most important thing in their life is money. That you don't need to have a two-parent household, a mother that is a nurturer and a father that's a disciplinarian, because we can replace the father with money. The father doesn't need to be there to work. We can give you money. We'll tell you that you're a victim of racism and xenophobiaism and thisism and thatism. And what we'll do to make that right is we'll give you money. And so what we have done is we have raised a huge portion of our culture to believe that money is more important than parents, that money is more important than anything else. It's more important than faith. It's more important than religion. It's more important than your community. And you say, no, Paul, come on. No, we all, no, you cannot throw money at a problem. You cannot throw money at an inner city decay and expect anything else. The state has no morality, and a government check is not a father. And you wonder why you have fully grown adult humans that have turned into little more than free-roaming monsters in your inner cities. Baton Rouge, New Orleans, I left those out. How were they raised? They have been raised by a government program. How do people control their behavior? How do they decide not to act in a certain way? The only thing that restrains the human animal from aberrant or baser behavior is morality. Where does morality come from? It comes from the family, and it comes from the church. And when you destroy both of those things, the end result is what you get and what we're seeing today in Chicago, Detroit, Baton Rouge, you name it. It's on display every single Baltimore, every single day you see the results. But we never address it. Jared, when's the last time someone honestly addressed the problem and said, oh, we need more laws. We need more laws. No, we don't need more laws in the United States. We need more morality. And the only place you can get it is from the family, from the church. And when you destroy those things, you're left with nothing. And whether you're an atheist or an agnostic or whatever, you're living in this world. And your plan to pass more Malum Prohibitum laws and to restrict the liberties that the non-criminal people have is not working, and it never will work. So there you go. All right, thank you to our friends at Brownells for being with us and for providing us with what we need to have black carbon fiber. Carbon steel microphones, pop filters, and electricity in our building, all that good stuff. If you guys own a gun, check them out at brownells.com. And Frog Lube, it's green, it's minty fresh. It is a bio-based firearms lubricant, and you can get it from brownells.com if you want, or you can get it from your local dealer. Get it wherever you want to get it, man. You're an adult. Do what you want. But make sure that you're lubing up that gun. Lube up that simple machine. Put some Frog Lube on it. Century Arms is the sweetest smelling arms maker in the U.S. of A., and we're going to have even more live, well, not live, but video demonstrations of Century Arms products very, very soon. I know Jared is working on some deep in the weed stuff with the Century TP9 guns, so pay close attention to that. Duracoat, because life is too short to have an ugly gun. Beginning and end of sentence. Too short, ugly gun. You can get Duracoat products from LauerWeaponry.com, or you can get them at Brownells. And last, but certainly not least on our hit parade right now, is SWAT Fuel. You want a sharper mind? You want a stronger body? You want to be more fit in 2017? SWAT Fuel can help you. Go to SWATfuelstore.com and use the promo code SOTG2015, and you're going to save yourself some money, and that's a good thing.
Attention, new listeners. We produced a free training video series called 7 Training Tips That Could Save Your Life. We want you to have access to this life-saving information. Get instant access now at studentofthegun.com. Do you watch Student of the Gun TV, read the blog, and follow us on Facebook? If you answered no to any of those questions, you are wrong, but you can easily fix yourself. Go to studentofthegun.com to find everything SOTG.
What you gonna do when it all comes back to the place that you never wanted it to come back to? And where you gonna roll when the bottom drops out and you got no place to go? Who you gonna trust when trust is a must? You better roll with the rest of us. So pack your bags and all the faith you can, cause it's about ready to hit the fan. Come to the ready. It's 2012, all about the re-election of an antichrist. Come to the ready.
Madison Rising, come to the Red A. And that is our official Student of the Gun Homeroom theme song. And Student of the Gun Homeroom is brought to you by our friends at Crossbreed Holsters. That's right. All right, we're going to talk about summertime bag carry. It's getting warm. The mercury is rising. And a lot of you very soon are going to be venturing out. You're going to do vacations, you're going to go to the beach, and you're going to go to the zoo, and you're going to go to the park, and you're going to be dressed in shorts and T-shirts and flip-flops and bathing suits and all that jazz. But you're a student of the gun, and you desire to have a gun, a firearm, at least one, if not more than one, close at hand so that you can put your paws on it immediately. Okay, I got you. So how are you going to do that? Well, one of the ways you can do that, and thank you, one of our grad program people sent us a picture. They just recently purchased an OHAI, O-H-A-I. And the OHAI is a gun pocket or scabbard that you get from Crossbreed Holsters. And what it is it is a holster that has a Velcro It has the hard side or the hard male Velcro looping on the back of it. Most of you hip cats out there in the gun community know that they sell lots of bags and satchels and pouches and briefcases and all that, and many of them have soft-sided Velcro liners so that you can add accessories like that. And obviously the guys at Crossbreed understood that. They knew that was coming, and that was something that you would have. So what you can do is you get an OHAI, O-H-A-I. It's a scabbard or a gun pocket for your gun, whatever your gun happens to be. They'll mold it for your Canic or your G-Lock or your Smith & Wesson or your Colt or your Sig or your whatever, and then you can secure it in that bag, that pouch, that backpack, whatever it is that you're using as your emergency go bag or as your day bag or what have you. And the most important thing is it keeps that gun from bouncing around and moving on its own inside that bag. So if you have to rip that thing open, put your hand in there and come out with a gun, the gun's actually there, not laying upside down in the bottom of the bag, which is generally not a good thing. So if you're looking at your summertime gun carrying technique or what you want to do, now's probably a good time to plan it out. Now's the time to go and, like, for instance, what is the man packs? The man packs, Jared, do they not? They all have that compartment
Yes.
that has the soft-sided Velcro backing, and that is a perfect mate for the OHAI.
Yes.
Peas and carrots, man, go together like Forrest Gump says, like peas and carrots. And, before it gets too hot, now's probably a good time to pop over to crossbreedholsters.com and pick out one for yourself and then drive on. How's that sound? Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, you can actually get the Man Pack bags from our store. I forgot about that.
studentofthegungear.com.
So if you want to get both of those, you can't get Crossbreed holsters from our store yet.
But you can get
the Man Packs.
That's right. And you can get the ones that are like blue and purple and gray. They don't look like, or even green, so they don't look like evil gun carrier bags. All right, tomorrow on the bonus hour, the grad program bonus hour, tomorrow we're going to talk about hurt feelings again. What? We're going to listen to somebody in England that gets it. He actually gets it. Yeah. We're talking about public school psychological terrorism. We got some motivational music and a lot of other fun stuff. So, grad program people, we will talk to you tomorrow. The rest of you, we'll talk to you next Monday. Remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.